This was a later piece by Pierre Boulez called Fragment d'une ébauche, fragment of a sketch. Well, this is for me a typical Boulez piece in only 30 seconds. It's very fast and very short, and it has everything that made me fall in love with this music from the age of 14, because that was the moment when my history teacher at high school gave me a recording of the second sonata of Boulez for piano. It was a piece written in 1948, and I had never heard anything like that until that time. And I was flabbergasted, and I was almost shocked. Also because, you know, I was a teenager at that moment, and as a teenager you want to sort of go against the grain. And at this stage I heard this music and I thought, this is a composer that does everything to break all the rules. And that was the moment I got hooked to his music. I read about a piece by Boulez that actually hardly anybody knew. It was a manuscript of a long piano piece called Prélude, Toccata et Scherzo from 1944. And that was present, I read, in Basel, in Switzerland, in the Paul Zacher Stiftung. I came there and I saw the score in beautiful handwriting, and I was again very much surprised because you could see so many things in it. For example, you could almost see the development as a composer, going from almost romantic idiom to a very contemporary style towards the end of the piece. It's extremely fascinating. At the same time, I was very surprised by all the indications to the performer that were written in the score. For example, the piece starts with slow and deep, it's indicated, but also with the greatest emotion, he writes, and with the greatest lyricism. So it's very much someone who tried to write something very expressive, and that confirmed my idea that Boulez is a very expressive composer, extremely expressive even, despite too often, I think, the focus by writers and critics about the structure and about the rational aspect of his music. But I've always felt that his music was about the human heart, and that's what seems to be confirmed very much by this piece. As you can hear, it's a very lyrical Boulez and also very dark and ominous. And that's not strange if you realize that this was written when he was 19, and it was 1944 at that moment, so it was in the middle of the Second World War. And every time he came to his composition lesson in Paris, he saw less students being present. Well, you probably can imagine what the reason for that is and what impression it must have made on this young composer trying to find his way, trying to find his voice. So yeah, the exasperated feeling of this piece is pretty evident. Well, at this moment, Boulez had lessons in a lot of composition techniques. He was inspired obviously also by Bach and tried here to write a fugue with a theme that is almost 12-tone music. And it's interesting because he was not super familiar at all with 12-tone music at that time. And he's already trying to find a similar device by himself. And you'll first hear the exposition, and then you'll hear that same main subject in the left hand with the right hand accompaniment, of course. At this time, Boulez was studying with Olivier Messiaen, who called himself rhythmicien. And also Boulez inherited this incredible fascination for rhythm. I'm very happy and very honored that the Paul Zacher Stiftung in Basel, Switzerland, and the heirs of Pierre Boulez, the family members, that they allowed me to perform and to record these unpublished manuscripts of earlier works by Pierre Boulez. Because not only does it give us a completely new perspective on Boulez as a composer, about his roots, his emotional world, but also about society at that moment. It's a great document of the time, of a young composer trying to develop himself and find his own style in the midst of the violence and aggression of the Second World War. This music is a great foreshadowing of all his later music, which is so incredibly colorful, exuberant, and full of life.